Hi, and welcome to my channel, Left Field Mama, where I focus on parenting against the grain. If you are a parent who is looking for unconventional ways to parent your children, then look no further than my channel. Subscribe below, and I will have weekly videos that will share with you some cool tips that I have learned in my journey of unconventional parenting. Today, I'm going to talk about routine. I know so many of you right now are trying to work from home and deal with your children's education, or perhaps you're a new homeschooler. For our family, we are just finishing up our first year of homeschooling, and boy, did I learn a lot. Coming from having my children in public school and I was working, to all of us being in our house at the same time, wow. So let me ask you, are your kids eating you out of the house? Are they whining that they're bored all the time? Is there just constant bickering? Are they begging for endless amounts of electronics? And do you feel like your house is exploding all around you? If that is the case, I have 5 tips that I'd like to share with you today that will help you correct all those issues. Tip number 1 is alone time. I always make sure that I get up at least an hour before my family. Typically for me, I like to work out. For you, it might look different. You might prefer meditation or yoga or going outside for a walk, or maybe simply just drinking your coffee and watching TV. Either way, make sure that you get your alone time before your family gets up so that you have time to wake up and be ready for the day. Tip number 2, waking your children. By the time you've had at least an hour of alone time, it's time for your children to wake up. By then, maybe your children have already woken themselves up, and it's a great time for them to have their breakfast and do whatever that is that they need to do to wake up. If you have a little bit older children who like to sleep in, it's a great time to start waking them up and getting them ready. For my family, sometimes if people are a little crabby, I like to put a little party music on and dance and wiggle. My older child thinks it's kind of dorky, but hey, you gotta have a little fun. It's a great way to get the day started. Okay, now that your children have been fed and they're awake, tip number 3. This one's my favorite one. You guessed it, chores. Why not get the house cleaned before we start our day? We use a chart in our house that's laminated like this. It's on the refrigerator. And simply we list our children's chores and they check them off, showing that they've done it. And we're ready to start our day. Okay, tip 4, that's our education time. But before we get into education, we need to solve our problem of endless snacking that happens with our children. So the best thing to do is to take them to the kitchen and have them help you make a healthy platter for snacking. Typically for our family, we use some fruits and some vegetables and some protein. When those platters are finished, have your child take them to their designated area where they'll be working on their schoolwork. If you plan on trying to get your work done while they're working on their schooling, this will solve so many of your issues because they won't be in there asking for snacks all the time. They'll know that this is their opportunity to snack until their designated lunchtime. During this time while they're snacking, they're free to graze on it and get their work done. Okay, so you've had your me time. Your children have had breakfast, they have done their chores and their schoolwork. Now what? That leads us to our final tip, and that's tip number 5. And tip number 5 is unstructured playtime. Why unstructured playtime? Well, because children need to learn how to not be bored. And often during this time, you'll see that their creativity will be unleashed. They will get their wiggles out, and they'll be so happy to have that time that's unstructured because you have structured the first half of their day. During this time in our family, we typically give our children between 1 and 2 hours. And that allows us to wrap up our day, to finish any work that we have, to start prepping dinner, whatever that is that we need to do. But it is such a key to our afternoon success. Okay, and that's it. 5 simple tips that you can add to your family routine that will bring harmony back into your house. I also want to mention that if your children are coming from a traditional learning setting, they are used to having things really structured. And often children find that to be very comforting. So don't be afraid to really structure out your day. If you liked this video, I'd love a thumbs up. If you applied these 5 tips to your family routine and they worked for you, please leave a comment. I'd love to hear how it worked out. And finally, if you haven't already, subscribe to my channel. I will have weekly videos where I'll be posting out-of-the-box parenting ideas that will help you along the way.